Welcome my YouTube family, Aga again with another episode of spiritual adventure while in Bali. I am actually next to the beach. I believe it's called Pigtail Beach, about an hour away from Ubud. However, the waves are quite strong, so I decided to find a nice serene area. There is a river in front of me, and there are some palm trees, and I also saw some cows grazing. So this is going to be our background for today's topic, and the topic is Vipassana, my second silent meditation course taken after about 10 years of my first conscious spiritual awakening event that took place during the first Vipassana meditation retreat that I took about 10 years ago in US. This time I went to Thailand. Back, I believe in November, I had this idea that since I'm going to be in Asia again, I will look for Vipassana retreats and see what is available, if I can register. And I typed the best Vipassana location in the world, and bam, a location in Thailand came up about 6 hours northwest of Bangkok. So I looked at the dates, and they had availability for February. I signed up, and it turned out that they didn't have availability. They put me on a list, but that list pushed me up, and I was able to actually confirm all the details, and they confirmed with me. They checked my language skills since I used my Polish passport to sign up, and I completed my second silent retreat about 2 weeks ago, and after that I returned to Bali to continue my journey. And this retreat was obviously very different than my first retreat because I have been meditating. I'm a serious meditator. I meditate every day, and it's been thousands upon thousands of hours, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of hours of meditation. My work is also meditation, so it's not like I had a trouble sitting, but definitely there were some powerful moments for me, and this is what I wanted to talk about. If you're familiar with Vipassana, you know that there are some restrictions, or quite a few. You have a very structured schedule. You wake up about 4 a.m. At 4:30 you're supposed to be meditating either in your room or in meditation hall. At 6 you have a break, or about 6:30 then you have a breakfast, short break, and then from 8 a.m. you meditate again until lunch, which is about 11. Then you can take a break until 1, and after that you meditate again. I believe after 3 you take short break, and you also have an evening sitting. Some meditations are always held in the meditation hall, and some are basically taking place in your quarters. So because the structure and the schedule that is very busy and the rules that they enforce, you are spending a lot of time with yourself in silence, right? One of the rules is, of course, to observe noble silence. You give up your electronics, you give up your reading materials, you give up all the distractions so that you can fully give yourself a chance to learn the technique. So I've known the technique, I've been using the technique for many years. However, I've also been using other things, right? Like pranayama, like breath retention techniques, hypnosis. You know, I do all kinds of cosmic journeys, out of body journeys, and I'm a certified hypnotist. I go to altered states quite easily, and I guide people who are going through hard times in life, right? Either short term, or maybe they've been experiencing anxiety, depression, all kinds of mood disorders, personality disorders for a while. So I'm not a devotee to this technique per se, and in fact I had some trouble because I wrote on the form once I arrived that I am a therapist. So actually the teachers wanted to talk to me 3 times. And one of the breakthroughs I had actually was not while sitting, because I can sit, I have no problem sitting for hours, although it took a little bit of adjustment. I'm not gonna lie that it's an easy process, because on the top of that I decided to do a little bit of fasting, so I didn't eat for like 2 days before I arrived there. And on my second day there I ate something in the afternoon, because to meditate for so many hours you do need a little bit of sustenance. You are definitely working hard, and since this was my second time, after 11:30 I was not eating anyways until 6:30 next morning. So this intermittent fasting was also part of the regimen, right? Outside of the noble silence, very intense schedule, and also working with the technique. First Anapana, which is focusing on the area right below your nostrils, above your upper lip, and then at the end of day 3, beginning of day 4, you start practicing Vipassana. And then towards the end, also new students, they learn metta meditation, sharing loving kindness. So that discourses in the evening recorded by Goenka, who has been propagating this technique for many years. He's now deceased, but this technique is ancient, right? It's over 2,500 years old, and it was first introduced by Buddha. It is non-sectarian technique. It has nothing to do with religion, with your spiritual background. Somehow, however, they had a problem with me being a therapist. So if you plan to sign up for Vipassana, I highly recommend that you, if you're working in healing modalities, that you don't disclose that. And also, if you are diagnosed or suspect yourself to have depression or other mood disorders or personality disorders, get it under control. Or if it's something that is not too severe, you should not disclose it either, because you won't be admitted to the course. And the course is powerful, and it can really help you go beyond your surface level reality consciousness and how you perceive yourself and others, and then all these triggers that people have. And I used to be that person, right? 10-11 years ago, when I first started meditating, I had a very powerful experience the first time. I had an out-of-body journey on day 7th, and I definitely felt like the vortex within me intensifying, because if you sit for so many hours without moving, you are focusing only on breath and then body sensations without visualizing. You're creating such intense, just even on a physical level, contraction of the energies that for me it resulted in like popping out of my physicality. So everybody obviously has a different experience, but that was me, and I came out of this retreat very motivated to continue working, and I will never stop meditating using Vipassana technique. But this time, once I adjusted, I was in a flow. I basically continued my internal process, and I am not so strict as far as how many hours a day I have to meditate, and if I can incorporate other things into my practice, I will. For example, they forbid you to do yoga, and I did stretch in my room a little bit. They also forbid you to write anything, and I did actually have a notebook because I had some ideas which I did write down. So I'm a little bit of a rebel, but I understand why these techniques, these rules are enforced, because it's going to trigger you, right? So if you are familiar with Vipassana, good for you. If you're not, absolutely sign up and have that experience one way or another. You will learn so much about yourself. It will change your life. It will change the way you perceive yourself, you deal with your everyday stress. It absolutely set me off to an amazing journey, and I'm so grateful. But I'm not just doing Vipassana. However, what I wanted to tell you is that one time when I was called to speak to a teacher, it was because when I was fasting, I didn't come to meditation like early enough. I came after like the last bell, and I also had a stomach problem for a couple of first days. I don't know if it's because I was changing countries and different diet, right? So one time I had to leave during a discourse, which is pre-recorded discourse that you watch at the end of the day, because I had to use a restroom, and then I came back for the meditation after the discourse. So they had a comment about that, that I am not, disciplined enough, and I explained that I had some stomach issues and I had to use the restroom, and also because I couldn't sleep, the second and third night. I was called to speak with a teacher at the end of third day. I didn't come early to the sitting. I wasn't late per se, but as an old student, you're supposed to give good example to the rest of the group. And I guess supposedly they didn't know what was going on, and somehow they didn't really buy my explanation. I'm not sure. They don't speak English very well, the teachers that were there, and they really have a limited ability to understand and communicate and go deeper into each person's journey. But what was interesting about it is that I felt this uneasiness within me. I knew that I didn't do anything wrong, and I wasn't trying to disrupt anyone. But when I left the meditation hall, went to my room, I used a process that I use with some of my clients, which is the completion process / working with your inner child. And I asked myself, Aga, when did you feel that feeling before? When did you feel it first? Somebody's reprimanding you, you are being looked upon like someone who is not following the rules and is creating disruption and perhaps giving bad example to the rest of the group. And immediately I had a flashback from when I was 18, and at the end of high school in Poland, you are taking exams, right? And these exams are very important, because the grades that you're gonna get are going to affect your admission to universities, because there are admission exams to universities, but in addition they look at your scores. And check this out, I was late to my Polish literature exam, I don't know, a few minutes, 7 minutes, right? And at that time I was dealing with so much personal problems, emotional problems, because of my life in Poland, growing up, and there is someone walking here, some locals, and I had problems with insomnia and even communication, because I had so much stress at home that I could study for hours. I knew the information, but I couldn't actually say it in front of the group, the commission that was actually examining me. And I've experienced that during certain classes as well in high school, chemistry and math, because of so much stress that I was holding on to. And I acknowledged that moment. Okay, so this is one situation, but I started to dig deeper. I was like, okay, is this the first time I felt this uneasiness, or is it coming from another experience earlier on in my life? And I was doing something in my room for a few minutes. All of a sudden, bam, I have this flashback of a very painful situation in my childhood. Painful then, not anymore, but it was quite powerful when it hit me, right? At the end of third day of Vipassana. I see myself facing a wall. My mother just beat me. My body hurts. I have bruises. I'm facing a wall in my room. I'm about 6 years old. And the reason I got punished is because earlier on that day, and I remember this was Friday, I was leaving my kindergarten after I've heard the name being called, and I thought the teacher called my name. And my kindergarten had this rule that you're upstairs with the rest of the group, and once you're being called, your name is being called, then it means your mother or your father or your guardian is here to get you. So you go downstairs, you take your clothes, and you leave. So I went downstairs and I looked around, but my mother was not there, so I didn't hear my name correctly. You know how they use the intercom, used the system, and the microphone wasn't clear enough. But I decided that since I'm already downstairs and there's nothing to do upstairs anymore, I'll just wait for her outside. I'm sure she'll be here soon. So outside there was this bench right in front of the building, and I was sitting there. Well, my mother didn't show up for a good, I don't know, hour and a half, 2 hours. I'm still sitting there. So I did, like, I guess the next best thing. I was just waiting. And when she finally arrived, my home teacher was leaving the kindergarten at the same time, and they met in front of the building. And obviously they talked, and when I got home, my mom was really upset. Even though I used my intuition, my instinct, and I waited for my mother, I didn't go anywhere, and there was no way she could have missed me because the bench was right on the left side outside of the building. That was gated building. So the confusion started within me. Because we all are born with this innate strong ability to judge situations and make the right decisions, and this part of me was being confused, was being reprimanded, and there was much more that took place because that part of me was also being pushed away. And the following Monday, my punishment was to go to the youngest group of kids and spend the whole day with them. And I would share meals with them. They were sitting at these really tiny tables, but the rest of the day I was actually sitting facing the wall, standing or sitting. And my mom, after this cruel punishment, put these really nice corduroy pants on me. These pants I remember because I was idolizing my father, who used to travel a bit for employment to other countries, and I didn't really know him well, but he gave me these pants. And my mom also was so nice to me after she so cruelly beat the shit out of me, that my whole body was on fire. I don't know if I even had fever or not, but then she puts my hair, grooms it, and she makes this really beautiful braid, and I have this color of pants. So in fact, she's covering her own shame, and I am, as a child, really, like I said, confused about the message, about this whole situation. I didn't do anything wrong. I waited for my mother. Two of these women were upset with me, right? And I get the beating, and then it's all being covered with this nice clothes. Yet I don't understand really the situation whatsoever. So I have all these emotions coming up, right? And I cried a little bit because I feel for this girl. I feel what she was going through, cruelty coming from the mother and also from a teacher, because you feel like there is no place you can hide. And then you can't talk about it. You're sad, and then you're being punished even more the following Monday. The only person that was really compassionate and loving towards me was this nurse, or some kind of assistant teacher. I'm not sure who she was exactly, but she would bring me books to my corner as I'm sitting facing the wall. I'm sad, I'm crying a bit, I'm also a little bit upset, I'm with like the 3 years old, and what am I doing here? I am bored. So all of this stuff came up for me after I had this conversation with a teacher, right, who almost like looked at me like, hey girl, you're a nobody here, and you have to do as we say, and this is not how I operate. So when I figured out that this is what this encounter brought up for me, I was really, really happy, because that's how healing happens, right? You connect with something so vital, so powerful within you that affects you without you even knowing that. Why did I feel uncomfortable, right? Why did I feel the confusion? So I got to the root cause of it, and that was amazing. So I am embracing this girl, this little Aga, and I'm integrating her, and I tell her that I will obviously listen to her, that she matters. I trust her instinct, and I will follow that little girl, the symbolic version of me that is strong, that uses her instinct, that knows what to do, that is trusting her decisions. And as I'm sitting in my room, all of a sudden I hear a voice of my grandma, who was apologizing to me. My grandma has been deceased for many, many years. I don't know, 10 years, right? And I didn't expect her to show up, and I hear this voice, and she says, I'm sorry. And I loved my grandma very much as a child, because you can imagine growing up with people who are so imbalanced that you cannot control anything in your environment, right? So this grandma is a mother of my mother, right? So this is like a lineage, and I hear her voice like clearly, and I told her, listen, I'm fine, and I accept it, but what you need to do, you need to actually connect with my mother, and you need to apologize to her, because your actions when she was a child created this whole pandemic of of traumatic events, right? And I also have a younger sister who is now going through this brutal, little bit physical process of manifestation of all of the traumas that she has suppressed. She's dealing with physical inflammation, pain, physical pain. She's 5 years younger than me, and she has never done therapy. I healed myself, so if I have like a hiccup like I had at Vipassana, it's actually once every, I don't know, 8 months, maybe once a year. So actually, I was very grateful for that. But for my sister, it's still a beginning of a journey, because she's now realizing that everything in her body is screaming pain, right? And she used to be bulimic for many
years.
So when I had this conversation with my grandma, and I told her, you need to make a connection with your daughter, and you need to make sure that you address your behavior either in dream state and however way your non-physical aspect can connect with her. Do your part, right? I'm okay. And I felt so free after that. I went outside, everybody was sleeping already. Of course, I wasn't sleeping all night, but I was laying outside, and there was a full moon, and this retreat is in a secluded place, beautiful, very serene and quiet. So I had this amazing epiphany and integration of that part of me that knows what to do. And that was super, super important, right? Because we often second guess ourselves. And I went back to that moment when my psyche split, and I started second guessing myself because of the circumstances that I described to you. So that was a big moment, right? And as far as later sitting, I was able to sit okay because I started eating, right? And also sometimes I was sitting in my room or even meditating, laying down, not always in the meditation hall. But again, the teachers brought me twice to also discuss with me what I do, and mostly actually the man that the teacher wanted to talk to me, mainly probably because he spoke better English, but he stressed out that if I want to sign up again for the course, I have to stop doing what I'm doing. Like, this is my profession, this is what I love doing, and I'm very good at therapy, and I do a lot of trauma healing with people who had sexual trauma, physical abuse, mental abuse. So I'm not sure why this somehow is looked at as not pure or not aligned with the Buddha and his gift to the world, which is Vipassana. I'm not planning to sign up because my meditation practice is strong. I meditate every day, and this is not something I'm planning to change. And most people who go there, they go there because they don't meditate regularly. So that's a big difference. I didn't go there to establish myself in the practice. I went there to see if I'm practicing the technique correctly, if I can go deeper in this process. And there are a couple of other situations worth mentioning. I integrated energies from my work in US. There's so much going on during sessions sometimes, and I had a couple of people this past year, my clients, that I felt like the energies needed to be brought into my own system in a healthy way. Because what I've been noticing for past 7-8 months is that after each session, especially hypnosis, I need to lay down. I'm going on my own journey for about half an hour, and I'm integrating, bringing the energies into my own vortex. So this is like all inclusiveness, right? Everything that happens in a session is not a garbage, it's not negative, it's just patterns that have been broken down, and as elementary particles, they're not toxic, and they're not toxic to me. It's a knowledge, it's a psychic knowledge, it's energetic knowledge. So that took place. I integrated energies from last year, and that felt really like a psychedelic journey. You know, when you sit for a few hours and it's so hot, and you create such intensity within your own system, you know, colors, patterns, you open your eyes and you don't see the three-dimensional reality at all. And when the energies were integrating, I knew it, because the feeling was like an earthquake, right? Like energy was literally drilling, vibrating so fast, but going inside me. So I wasn't releasing anything, I was actually absorbing. And this happened twice. One time, like I said, when I had this really full-on psychedelic experience, and I really had to, like, later at the end of the day, just hold the railing of the stairs in order to not fall, basically, and quietly go to my room without causing trouble, right? Without being again called by teacher for not being quiet enough. And another integration also took place that was a little bit lighter, right? So this is my process and my experience, and I'm very grateful. I went to Thailand, met some beautiful souls. This center I went to, I will link it underneath the video. The name, I don't remember it right now, but it's pretty well built and organized. You're in paradise, surrounded by plants, exotic trees. It's clean, it's pretty quiet, although there is a village nearby, but still it's a property that can serve you very well if you can go there. Vipassana is free, right? And this place can easily bring 100 students in for any given retreat. So there was about 50 women and about 20 men in my group. And obviously last day we talk, we share. I took a bus back to Bangkok and then flew back to Indonesia because I'm doing an amazing project that I'm gonna talk about soon. But in the meanwhile, big thank you for listening, tuning in. If you want to properly learn how to meditate and heal yourself, you gotta learn proper techniques. Vipassana is golden. It will definitely help you. It is not a magical pill. It will not heal your trauma. So let's just be honest here that this is not one pill resolves all problems, right? Let's not forget that during that time when this technique was invented, there was no psychology, there was no knowledge of the psyche, and we're living in very different frequencies right now. The consciousness level, the awareness that is available to us is much different. However, this technique can very much speed up your process of awakening, of healing, and combined with techniques that I'm offering in my practice, like healing the inner child, regression therapy, some pranayama breath work, energy work. When you address the root cause and you deal with memories, with events, will heal you. I mean, it's amazing. It works as a charm, but you have to have obviously a regular practice, right? And going to Vipassana for this intense 10-day experience will help you establish the discipline. so that after you leave, you continue meditating, because this is crucial. Right, so if you have any questions about Vipassana, about my online course, I just launched a Reiki course level 1, which in addition to teaching about energy work, teaches you about self-healing technique and therapies that I have used on myself. So I welcome your questions about Vipassana, and also if you have completed Vipassana retreat, please share with me your experiences. How is your practice going? What are your struggles? Like I said, I've been meditating for 10 years now religiously, plus my work is very much like meditation. Imagine when I have a client for hypnosis, it's 3.5 hours after we do the pre-talk, right, of absolute zooming in to my client and being present and being aware. So I have no shortage of meditation in my life. So if you need any guidance, any motivation, it's powerful. And whatever you discover in this process, then later you can work through using other methodologies that Vipassana will not teach you. So this is important to know, that Vipassana is not like a universal method of liberating yourself of pain, okay? It will make you self-aware, it will make you mentally strong, but healing has to take place using other modalities. This is my contribution to YouTube today. I wish you a wonderful, wonderful day. Lots of love, bliss, and please comment, subscribe, share, sign up for Vipassana. Namaste.